So welcome. I'd like to welcome Martin Palethorpe for this podcast from Unlimited Potential. Really good to see you, Martin. Little bit of background. Martin has 20 years of experience of executive and leadership coaching throughout Europe. His personal journey has encompassed many moments of waking up, seeing things differently, shifting how he thinks, lives, and works. And so his passion is bringing this to the corporate world. I know you've worked with many CEOs and boards, Martin, from small startups to some of the world's largest organizations. You're also an adventurer, having raced across the North Pole and 3 of the world's largest deserts. And a yogi and explorer of consciousness. Really pleased. We've known each other for over 30 years, Martin. So a pleasure to spend some time and really share some of your learnings and wisdoms and what you're looking to bring. Now you've got some exciting things that have been happening in terms of what you're looking to share. And the impact you can have in the world and the support you can provide.
Thank you, James. Thanks. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, one of the things you sort of shared around coaching business leaders to transform how they live, work, and lead for the benefit of people, profit, and planet. And you talk about one of your deeper passions and work is about helping you on the journey to experience and explore consciousness. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of your moments? You sort of talk about many moments of waking up. Share a little bit of that in terms of how that shifted your approach and what you now bring to businesses and business leaders.
Goodness, where to start with all that? How I see it is that so for my personal journey and how I see it for others is that we are largely a result of the conditioning that we grow up with from childhood, from our society, from our parents, from our schooling, etc. We are this conditioned being that, so I ran into the world driven and hardworking and knowing that I needed to or wanted to make loads of money and be very successful, etc., etc. And so I ran into the world with pre-programming that said I need to get somewhere and I need to get somewhere fast. And so I see that's linking that into leaders is like if we're not careful, we've got a world full of leaders that are simply playing out their own conditioning, what the ego wants, what they learned as a child, what their beliefs were that they adopted from society, are all then playing out in how they live their lives and how they work and what they're striving for now. And I realized that is unconscious. It's unconscious. It's not, we're just playing out a programming. And as we play that out, we do harm to ourselves actually first, but also potentially harm to others and harm to the planet. Not just harm, there's some beautiful elements to who we've grown up to be, of course, but all of it's unconscious. And so for me, the journey, my own journey, but my journey with leaders is to help them wake up on multiple levels, wake up to be way more considered, way more aware of what's going on for ourselves and others, so that we can make considered wide choices about how we live and how we lead moment by moment.
Yeah, beautiful. And from a personal level, can you describe some of those sort of waking up moments for you and how that sort of shifted from how you might have been sort of coaching and leading in that, call it traditional way, in terms of how we might have been working with leaders when you look back in terms of your career, and how that's shifted. But also what you've seen, what's that shifted in you in terms of your own, when you say I've had many moments of waking up, seeing things differently. Just share a little bit around that in terms of what that looks like, and then how that's flowed into your work.
So the waking up is moments that there's a couple of elements of this. I think one is waking up and realizing that the way that I'm living life is not deeply fulfilling. So the first one of those really was around 27 years old, whereby on the face of it, I was achieving loads. I had stayed for a 27-year-old. I kept getting promoted. I kept getting paid more money. I had a nice company car. You know, all on the face of it, things were really amazing. Yet I wasn't deeply nourished. And so the waking up is waking up from the conditioning to realize that actually, what is it that makes me deeply fulfilled? So that would be the first element of waking up for me, is to get to these points. I mean, you could call it a midlife crisis. I mean, that's the common term, but maybe 27 is a little bit early for that. But it's like these crisis moments where we go, well, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy in this job, or I'm not happy in this way I'm living my life. I'm not happy with my weight. I'm not happy with the way I have balance, etc. It's like waking up to go, to what extent am I living this life deeply fulfilled? And then the other element of waking up for me is waking up to learn about the mind. And this human mind, this experience that we live in, is so profound and amazing. And learning about the mind, learning about our thinking, learning about how the human system works is another level of waking up, to ensure that I can, to enable me, whatever I'm doing in life, to live with peace, clarity, power, freedom, self-expression, love, responsibility. And so taking that into the business world is like that's for me, it's the journey for all of us, is to take leaders on a journey where they can really look at a practical and a deeper level of life and their experience.
Yeah, nice. And just unpack that, Martin, around in terms of so there's some external things and some striving and that traditional terms of those things we've been looking at in terms of, you've been seeing in terms of getting promotions, apparent success on the outside, but there was a shift there, as sort of saying it's not giving me the nourishment you used, which can start us to question and start us to move us from that external to looking within, in terms of where does nourishment come from, and what have been in terms of that waking up, in terms of that exploration of nourishment, and through understanding the mind, through understanding, call it consciousness. Just share a little bit around that in terms of how you see that, and that exploration and journey, and how that's then shifted your both behavior and your experience of nourishment and fulfillment.
So First of all, regarding the outside world, I can change my job. I can get a bigger house. I can get a different wife. I can make many changes. I can look and say, practically, I don't like this job, or this house. I want a bigger garden, or I want to have my dream car. And there's many of my clients that then get the bigger house with the bigger garden, or the dream car, but fulfillment doesn't come with it. So they may be happy with the Ferrari for like a month or a week, or maybe forever. They enjoy it, but it doesn't give them a deeply nourishing, fulfilling life. They can still be sad, frustrated, depressed, whatever. So the journey, the real, more profound journey, becomes looking inside. Looking inside to look at and learn about the mind and the way that thinking works. So it's very common for us to be caught up in our thinking. Apparently, there's 60 to 70,000 thoughts occurring each day. So I'm living in this sea of thinking. I'm living immersed in what my thinking is doing about what I like, and whether it's a good day or a bad day, or a good year or a bad year, or a good job or a bad job. Or I'm living in this sea of thinking that currently most people are totally immersed in. And the deeper journey that I experience, that is aligned with the latest neuroscience and cognitive science, it's also aligned with ancient wisdom coming from the likes of Buddhism and Hinduism and so on. And that's to learn and see that our thought is creating an illusion that we live within. And there's many practical ways of seeing this. You know, I can be worried about something that I'm convinced is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. Some simple example of how this mind is so immersive and so powerful that I live constantly in the stories that the mind creates. So the deeper journey is to learn and wake up from that and realize that that's not who I really am. The thinking that creates Martin to be a certain way is not who I really am. And the more I can see that, the more I can live from a place beyond all those creations and all those constructs. Live with more peace, more clarity, more ease. It's just being rather than doing.
And when you say you're not your thoughts, then what are you?
So the exploration is who am I really? And so in normal society, quote unquote normal, who I am is Martin. I'm 53. I'm confident. I love sport. I like yoga. I like living by the sea. I'm a good dad. I'm a loving son, etc., etc. And so we're very created. We're very created. Now, where is that creation coming from? It's coming from thought. So there's this labeling machine that actually is just part of this human system. Is like thoughts coming through, and it's constantly labeling stuff. I'm like this, I'm not like that. I'm good at this, I'm not good at that, etc., etc. And in the creation of it, it creates us to be something and limits who we really are. So there's something here about shifting our relationship to realize it's I remember those old label machines that they used to have to label things in shops, in corner shops and things. I'm thinking of the labeling, constant labeling, this and that and so on. And is it true that I'm not confident? Is it true that anyone's not confident? Well, no, it's not, because in some moments they will show confidence, maybe when they're with their child or with their mum, or or when they're preparing a spreadsheet, they are confident. So we're looking at this labeling to realize that's not who we really are, and by nature of labeling, we restrict and we limit what is possible and what is potential. Now, to go a little bit further with this, is there's being beyond the labels. So there's being here right now in this moment. There's just being. And from this deeper state, there is awareness. So we are aware right now, and there is awareness of what's going on. But the deeper I go and the quieter I get with the rational mind, the more I access this state of awareness, this experience of awareness. And I am here. This is me, but it's beyond and before all the labels. So what that means is that I show up without the limitation of the labels. I show up as what I might call my true essence, who I really am, which sometimes could be self-expressed, sometimes could be confident, sometimes could be funny, etc. There's a naturalness to the being that can just arise.
And what would you say the qualities of being, your essence, awareness? What are those innate qualities?
So I see this as the same for all of us. Sure, we've got slight different variations depending on the human form. But the qualities are all of the qualities we could possibly ever need. So when the mind quietens down and when the labeling is not occurring, the qualities are peace of mind, clarity, thoughtfulness, wisdom, kindness, responsibility, self-expression. Yeah, and you may experience that in this conversation right now. Is like there's a space that gets created where life is just flowing through me. Leadership is flowing through me. Everything is just flowing through me, and it's kind of like Martin, the ego, the conditioning has kind of got out the way.
And what do we see in terms of the behavior, the expression of that, the more that you find yourself expressing yourself from your being, from that place with those qualities? How does that express on the outside in terms of the way you lead, the implications of that?
The implications of that is the essence of what I give off is different. I'm calmer, I'm clearer, I'm less judgmental, I'm I'm more relaxed, etc. The other element of how that manifests is it manifests in the choices that I make in my life. Because from this calmer, clearer, considered, questioning mind, I start to look and say, am I living from wisdom? Is it wise that I have 4 coffees a day? Is it wise that I keep eating gluten when I know it's not good for my body? Is it wise that the strategy that we've got for our company, the growth plans, are they coming from ego or are they coming from wisdom? The way I'm leading right now, the way I'm leading my people, does it make sense? Am I too kind? Am I too nice? Or am I too harsh? We start to be able to have a different perspective and become more considered about every element of how we live, lead, work.
Mm.
And that's what this world needs right now, is it needs conscious leadership. There's so many leaders and so many businesses that are kind of living, working unconsciously. They're just doing what they do based upon the programming and the condition to get somewhere. And as a result, we end up with significant issues in the world with health, well-being, climate, employee engagement. Yeah, so many different issues showing up.
Yeah. So share some, because that's a big shift, isn't it, in terms of we called it, if we cycle back, that sort of almost an unconscious way of being and acting. We're really just responding to a thought, how that's making us feel, and then acting. And we've got that sort of conditioning patterns, the constructs that we are, are influencing, driving that. And I said, there's a I've seen that sort of slowing down, the clarity that comes when we're really the essence of ourselves is revealed. We've still got all our skills and our in terms of the skills and knowledge that we have, and that's infused then with those qualities you beautifully described. What's in terms of sharing this, can you share some examples in terms of outcomes and where businesses have adopted this approach, leaders have adopted this approach? What's shifted and what outcomes? Because businesses still have to perform, they've still got to generate profit, they've still got to deliver on the key metrics, performance indicators, the outcomes that they need. Share a little bit around that as well, please.
Now, this more considered conscious leadership can affect a leader on every single level. And so in their personal lives, as well as in their work, for them as a leader, for them as a team member, for them in terms of what they do in society. And it can also be tiny, small things. So it can be changing a habit, deciding to go to the gym today, or deciding to put in a practice where I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. And that's conscious, because that's tuning into the, I'm feeling sluggish, I'm feeling tired, or I'm putting on weight, and the consciousness is having some awareness around that to go, well, actually, the way I'm living my life right now is not working for me. I need to make some change. So it can come in very small ways like that. It can also come into very large ways. So I've got one client who was the CEO of a construction company, who's come out of his company because he sees that there needs to be a fundamental change in how construction is done for the good of the planet. So the amount of carbon created by the construction industry is colossal. And the construction industry and the interior fit out business is all based upon replacing. So a new tenant comes in, you rip out everything from before and you put new in. And that's how people make their money. That's the expectation, etc. But there's no consideration for the climate in that. So he's taking a significant period out to stop and say, hang on a second. I want to be part of redesigning how this sector works. And I want to be a stand for a different way that actually really also considers the planet in the process. So it can be massive stuff. It can be life-changing, because I also believe that the more conscious we become, the more we want to do good in the world, and the more we want to make a difference. And I think the other thing, just to add into this, is that the consciousness is like really tuning into the moment right now. So here I am, I'm in a team meeting. It's my team. I'm leading in a certain way. It's an hour-long meeting, and the meeting goes a certain way. And afterwards, I realized that one of my team members was really quiet. I didn't notice it at the time. But it's having the awareness either in the moment or straight after to pick that up and go, well, I wonder what was happening with them. Are they okay? So it's the awareness, and the awareness, then we can miss that kind of stuff because we're so busy caught up in the business game. We can miss all of that. Or we can tune into those moments and go, oh, that didn't feel quite right. I'm going to call them. And in calling them, we find out that they've recently lost someone very dear to them. Or in calling them, we find out that they really disagree with the strategy that's being implemented at the moment. And I hadn't picked that up. So awareness is also in a moment, tuning in and going, where are people at? Where am I at? And tuning into that greater intelligence that's available if we notice it.
Yeah. And another word for that, which I love, is around is presence, isn't it? Is really being present to, rather than lost in our thoughts, lost in the business plan, lost in the story.
Yeah. So it's like presence enables me to be intelligent, to be aware and to be intelligent. Without presence, then I'm going to be lost and I'm not going to pick stuff up. So yeah, presence is the fundamental element, really.
And what do you in terms of your journey, and the work you've been doing to understand, to know, to be present, how's that shifted? And the other question is, what do you do if you find that you're, call it unconscious or not being present? How do you get yourself back into presence? So there's two questions there. One is, how's that shifted over time with the exploration first, and then we'll look at in terms of, well, I can recognize I'm really busy. How can I become present? Find my way back.
So the first thing I'd say is my personal development journey has been 26 years long out of my 53 years. And that's been, so what I realize is it's a lifelong journey to develop myself, to learn about myself, to learn more about the mind, to learn more about all sorts of elements. So learning to be present has been part of that. It hasn't happened overnight. And the main thing I think that's facilitated is exploring and learning about the mind. Because the more I explore and I learn about the mind, my thinking, awareness, a deeper intelligence that's at play that can flow through me, the more that I learn about those things, the more that presence becomes available.
And have you found, in terms of through that exploration, through that curiosity, that presence is becoming more established, it's abiding more often than not, or more, you're finding yourself just being present, coming from that place?
Yes, way more so. And of course, not all the time. And but it's like it's not like developing a muscle, but somehow the journey of learning more about the mind through a whole different range of things means I'm slower and calmer and clearer more often. Yes. And also putting practices in place for myself where I have some time. So lots of practices like yoga and breath work and meditation or journaling or reading something that are in my day to ground me almost to a better way of being. Yeah.
And that was my follow-up question, was around that, is the noticing and recognition that we can be lost in our thought, lost in a story, and then being conscious then to say, okay, how do I find my way back to recognize the presence that I am?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to not be present and to not realize that you're not present. It's awesome if you've got other people in your life that you give permission to, partners at work, colleagues, children, to give them permission to help you, because they can see you're not there. They can see you're busy, you're anxious or whatever. So that would be one element. Obviously, that's not taking responsibility myself, but it is a useful mirror to have people around you that are supporting you on this journey. My own awareness is just catching myself. I think this whole journey of the last 26 years is about awareness. How am I feeling? What's going on in my thinking? How am I coming across? What choices am I making? Am I coming from ego? Is there a bit of ego in there? Is it my conditioning that's playing out? What's the feeling in my body doing? There's the awareness then is the key. The more aware I become, the more I have a chance of catching whether I'm actually here in this moment now or not.
Yeah. And it's so easy, isn't it, to become, we can become lost in our experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Massive.
And I think what I love what you're sharing and pointing to is really that presence is it's like we're surfing that wave where we're fully present to experience. We're not disengaged from it, but we're not lost in it. And from that space, we can really lean into that with our full wisdom, with our clarity, with our presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, Martin, as well, in terms of your journey, in terms of what you've been, and you have a brilliant capacity to take what you've been exploring and learning and then bring it into a business context, bring it into the business world. And so I know one of your signature programs is around quality of mind. Share a little bit around that, which is like this sort of bridge, isn't it, to take leaders, executives,
Yes.
To looking beyond thought.
Yeah. So what I'm passionate about is meeting people where they're at. There's many people out there that are not into personal development or are not looking for spiritual awakening or some deep experience, but they're out in life there, many of them running companies, struggling with some things, suffering. They're struggling with confidence, they're struggling with overwhelm, they're struggling with conflict with a partner, business partner. Yeah, there's a lot of struggling going on. So my passionate focus is to meet people where they're at in the business world, to find out what they're struggling with. Now, most of what people are struggling with has some significant psychological element to it. So the quality of mind is a pragmatic program and meeting people where they're at, but also profoundly deep, looking psychologically and spiritually. So it's packaged together in a way to take someone who is struggling with something in their practical business life, to take them on a journey to give them transformational insights. There's many leaders who have been struggling with the same thing in the same way for many years. So I'm interested in how to give someone a different experience that is going to give them a quantum leap in how they think. And that's really what the Quality of Mind program does. We've been running it for the last 8 years. We run it as open programs. We run it inside teams, in leadership teams. We run it as a leadership development program in organizations. And it is mind-blowingly powerful to help people, have transformative insights.
And share some of the impact and outcomes that's delivered, that journey for the leaders, executives that have come to those programs.
Leaders feeling way less stressed, more able to deal the same job, but with a different mindset, enables them to be doing exactly all the same things, but from a peace and clarity rather than overwhelm and stress. That would be a very common one right now. Shifted thinking about their relationship, shifted thinking about their thinking about themselves, more understanding for others. We get a lot of people who are stuck in judging people, being a challenging leader and not trusting people or not trusting colleagues or partners. And so we get a lot of shifts in having more compassion for other people who will be entirely different to them. So those are a few that spring to mind. And now what we've also done is so Unbounded is the core company that's been taking people on that transformational journey for 8 years, and we're still doing that, and that's beautiful. But we've also launched Consciousleaders.earth because we want to inspire and encourage leaders not just to do that for themselves in their own little business, but to do that in the context of a better level, a better form of leadership on every level for this world at this time.
And just share a little bit more around that as well, Martin, in terms of Consciousleaders.earth and with the quality of mind work you're doing and the impact that's having, that move into this new platform or community. That's something that really jumped out to me when I was looking at what you're what you're planning and what you're bringing with Consciousleaders.earth.
Yes. So Consciousleaders.earth comes out of people can come on the quality of mind program. They could be running a business that is not particularly doing much good in the world. But they'll leave with peace of mind and clarity and So on one level it's awesome because they leave with better use of their mind. But they're not necessarily considering what impact they're having in this world, on this planet, in society, in their community, etc. So Consciousleaders.earth and is launching at a time when there are lots of leadership crises going on globally. And if we look at the values underpinning much leadership that's underpinned from greed, from ego, from self-preservation, from defensiveness, from need to grow and need to compete. There's many elements to our classic leadership that are causing many of the problems going on at every level in society. And many people now are looking at the leadership of big tech or big corporations, the government, or organizations, other organizations in the world, and saying, what's going on with the leadership? So Consciousleaders.earth is taking quality of mind to another level to inspire you and I and everyone else to start looking at the leadership role that we're playing in our lives and in this world. And that doesn't mean that we each have to want to become a member of parliament, or it doesn't mean that we necessarily need to change what we're doing fundamentally, but the journey of questioning what we're leading, how we're leading, the choices we're making, the decisions we're making, inspiring us each to be doing that for the common, for the greater good, whatever the greater good is for us.
Yeah, beautiful. Whew. So tell me, Martin, around that. So what, and so that's looking at because there's still a tension there, isn't it? There can be a tension in terms of a business that's got to generate profits and revenue and deliver, and this new way of doing business, of leading.
Yes. So there's many levels so organizational effectiveness now is back in the 90s, it was just revenue and profit. Drive, make as much money as we can. And on so many levels, we're seeing that is not working. So what we're looking at now is a more holistic form of running a business. And there's various models out there. People talk about people, planet, and profit. So the triangle, we've got to look after our people and people generally. We've got to look after the planet, and we've got to look after the bottom line profit. So we've got to have a balanced approach to all of that. This is not about throwing away the need for profit or the focus on profit. It's not about that, but there's got to be a balance that actually, if we don't look after our people, then profit won't be maintained for the long term anyway. If we don't look after our planet, then we won't even be here to worry about people and profit. So we're kind of increasingly looking and seeing this need for balancing how we lead organizations and having a more holistic approach. And in some ways, you could say that's more complicated than it was back in the 90s. But it's the only thing that's now it's the only way that's possible, because the world is so transparent. If you're leading and driving just profitability, at some point it will catch up with you in terms of it'll impact your brand, it'll impact your people, and they'll leave, or they won't be so creative or so loyal or productive. So a myopic focus just on profit doesn't work any longer.
Yeah, massive.
And of course, what's absolutely fundamental is to run an organization well, focused on those three things. We've got to develop personally, individually as leaders. It all starts with the consciousness of the leader that's running the organization and the team. And that's why this work, Unbounded's work, Quality of Mind, and Consciousleaders.earth is so fundamental, because the only way we're going to improve how we run organizations and improve the world, globally, is if each of us take responsibility of going on our own personal journey.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to explore around that in terms of vision, community, around Consciousleaders.earth? An executive, a leader that's listening to this. What would in terms of their engagement and to what you're doing?
Well, the first thing I'd say is come on the Quality of Mind program. It's a 3-day program running quarterly to start people on this journey. It's profoundly powerful and profoundly enjoyable. And we also have a community, a Quality of Mind community, which is a group of leaders that are getting together to keep this stuff alive from themselves, to increase their awareness on all elements of leadership, relationships, decision making, all sorts of things. So, and the other thing that they might like to do, Consciousleaders.earth, sign up to our newsletter. It's not really going to kick off in terms of actively being a community until 2023. But certainly sign up and see where we're going, and have a look at some of the content and the interviews that we'll be doing ourselves.
Yeah, great. And just I'm also curious around, just from your what you've got planned for yourself, and what's happened this year. What's the most transformative work that you've done this year?
I did an amazing walking retreat with a group of Buddhists in Snowdonia, which was largely wild camping and walking in silence for 6-7 days. And it was profoundly powerful just to be in nature, soaking in nature. I think we underplay. We all seem to know that nature's good for us. It's nice to get out. We say, yeah, let's go for a walk. It'd be nice to get out. But we're not really tuning into why it's so good out there. And so having there's a resonance and a frequency of nature that calms the autonomic nervous system. There's a way it calms and clears the mind. And there's also a way that we more deeply connect with the oneness of life by being out there. So to spend a week in silence, soaking all that up at a physical and energetic level, but also psychologically and spiritually, it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. And then the other program I did this year, at a retreat center called Spirit Horse, I did an enlightenment intensive, it was called, which was really a extremely powerful exploration, looking at the mind and who we really are deeply. And that really had me look at and peel back from a lot of the thinking that I was caught up in myself. Helped me almost feel like get out of my own way, or let the divine intelligence of life, however we want to call it in language, is like, let the intelligence flow through me, be in flow state, be in the zone, let life flow through. Or if you're spiritual or religious, you know, it might be let God, yeah, let it express through me, and I get out my own way. And that program was really powerful in realizing I didn't need to do my life. I didn't need to struggle with it or strive. I just needed to relax and to surrender into flow.
Yeah, into flow, into your essence, into presence. Yeah.
Now, and I've known this for many years, but what I experience with ongoing programs is there's just an ongoing value in sinking into this space and continuing to explore it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That establishing yourself in presence, in awareness, in being.
Yeah.
And so what's on the plan, Martin, for the rest of the year and going into next year around, or in that space? What are the areas that you're going to go and explore?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to say is Consciousleaders.earth is a big focus. And that is me getting out of my way. That is surrendering. That is being in flow and being boldly in flow. It's like part of being in flow, part of getting out of my own thinking is to live life and do work that I'm deeply passionate about, and to do it boldly, not caught up in worrying how it might look or worrying whether it will work or whatever. So there'll be lots of sharing on Consciousleaders.earth to get out there, to express, you know, maybe to be a little bit Marmite, for those that know that expression, you know, where I'm loved by some and not loved by others. And that will be okay, but because I'll be being my authentic, powerful self, sharing what I'm passionate about in the world, and seeing where and how it sticks. So that's probably the most important thing that is really calling me to do.
Yeah. So I hear that sort of being truly authentic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. And I heard a great quote, actually. There's a chap who's recently died in the conscious leadership space, a guy called John Ranesh. And I heard this today, is like, don't do what the world needs, do what makes you come alive. Don't do what the world needs, do what makes you come alive. And for me, beautifully, this work around conscious leaders, it's about that. It's about coming alive, doing things I'm deeply passionate about, and the rest will take care of itself.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I really inspired for any listeners of this recording is, do what makes you come alive. Where is their energy? Where is their excitement? Where is their passion? Let go of the yes, but I can't because I have to provide for my kids, or I can't because the house mortgage is so big, or yeah. And of course, there are some practicalities that we may have to look at in life, but let your life be guided by what has you feel alive, and then live that for the rest of your days, and you will be fulfilled.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that. When you were sharing that, Martin, I was getting goosebumps. I'm like, there's a palpable aliveness to that, you know, when we're aligning to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And some would say it's like, it's finding what you you're meant to be. It's like what you're here for, right? What are you here for on this planet? And each of us seems to have some unique expression of that based upon all of our experiences over life. But it's like, yeah, the only thing that really matters is to work that out.
Yeah. So that authentic contribution, that gift.
Yeah. And it's not just about what you do, but it's then how you do about it, the power and authenticity with which you do life, all of it.
Yeah, beautiful. I love how you're starting to weave when you talk about that 7-day retreat in Snowdonia and immersing yourself in nature, being there can be that stage, isn't it, where for some it can be quite uncomfortable being in silence. We notice how the mind really wants to keep us distracted, and so being comfortable just in your own mind, not getting lost in it, just allowing, and as you said, 60 to 70,000 thoughts can be arising, and there's just a resonance with nature. So I love that as well. You're starting to bring that into some of the planned retreats for next year, isn't it? So which will be in nature as well. So we're creating that container, that ability to then really deepen as leaders. As well.
So our Quality of Mind Foundation program is done in nature, in a beautiful farmhouse, and much of the time we'll spend out in nature, looking at and learning from nature and how it works, because we are nature. Actually, we've only learned to think that we're not nature, and so we have to do these programs in nature's, not in a concrete building in the city of wherever. And our most profound program is an advanced program that we do in yurts in a forest. And again, that's taking that deeper and further to really play with and look at the impact that nature can have on mind, body, spirit. And so that may sound woo-woo for some people, and on one level it might be, but actually ultimately it's all about highly practical stuff here in the business world, because we have to go on this journey to enable us to show up to be more clear, practical, thoughtful. It's needed to enable the conscious leadership that we've been talking about.
Yes. Yeah. So bringing more presence into our leadership, into business.
Yes.
Will allow us to respond to whatever life, whatever the world is bringing up in that moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit around, you talked a little bit around sort of flow states, in terms of being in flow. So what does that mean in terms of, what's your definition of flow? What does that mean?
So flow as a psychological term was defined back in the 1970s by a psychologist called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And his definition of flow is this highly engaged, this state of being where we are engaged, where we are immersed in what we're doing, how we're lost in what we're doing. Is like the conscious mind, the rational mind, the thinking part of the mind switches off, and we enter this kind of flow state where we are operating effectively, really well, actually, outperforming what we might do when we're not in this state. and yet it's effortless and easy and done without thinking. So the classic example, if you take sport or music, you know, someone that's, I don't know, someone that's playing a Mozart symphony on the piano, and just look at them, right? They're just immersed in what they're doing. They're playing amazingly and brilliantly. But if you interviewed them after, how did you do that? They, in the moment, they're not aware of how they're doing it. They're just operating in this amazing, beautiful flow state. The same that happens, you know, sometimes a courageous act. Let's say someone rescues a child from a fire, and they really put their lives in danger, and they come out of the situation, and then they're interviewed and say, how did you do that? And actually they don't know. Well, they didn't. They just did it. They did what needed to be done. And we've got this incredible ability, and it links into thinking the what we talked about earlier about all the thinking that we might have about ourselves. All of that just drops away in this flow state. So flow state, as I see it, is a form of being. It's a form of this deeper, richer, amazing autopilot that we have to just do life without having to struggle or strive or control it all.
Yeah. So another, instead of forming, a quality of being, isn't it, in terms of that?
Yeah. It's a quality of being, but it's doing whilst being. Yeah. So most people get caught up with thinking that the being is sitting there cross-legged meditating. But actually, no, we can be super amazing and productive in this state of being.
Yeah. And massive. Yeah, that's a really beautiful distinction around that, because we can, there's there can be some fears that being in being can create some level of almost inertia or apathy. So we're sort of checking out from the world, checking out from taking action. And that's the case as you're sharing. There's that expression from your being with all of those qualities and taking action from that place. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So this whole journey, yes, it is about being at peace. It is about having a calmer, peaceful mind, and it's about living life fully in every possible way of what we do with that. It's not just about living in a cave. And yeah.
And as you said, with that aliveness, we can. I love that expression. For me, is about leaning into life, isn't it? And there's sometimes we can feel almost bullied by it, beaten by it, and so that's inner strength from just being able to really lean into, to step into it with all of our being, with all of ourselves.
No regrets. Let's experience life fully and live life powerfully.
And and really, for me, that you shared as well, is that gift we can give to every interaction when we're fully present with someone, as a leader, as a father, as a lover, as a friend, being fully present and with someone, how powerful that is.
It is amazing. And it's a lifelong journey because the mind is so immersive. So it's very easy for us to get caught up in some form of story or judgment of another or judgment of ourselves or frustration. It's like, this is a lifelong journey because the mind constantly comes along and tries to seemingly disrupt us from our power.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dance, isn't it?
Mm.
And just what's one of your favorite or music tracks, Martin, which you like sort of brings you back into your, call it back into your being, back into presence?
Mm. Now, historically, I haven't been a massive follower of music. Um, um, but I'll give you a couple that come up now. So there's a wonderful song by Alexa Sunshine Rose, "I Release Control." I love that.
Mm.
I release control and surrender to the flow of life that will heal me. Actually, it's the flow of love that will heal me. And I love that because when I take life too seriously or get too caught up in thinking I need to manage it or control it, it reminds me of just releasing that control and surrendering to the flow. And thank you. And the other one, I would just there's a band, or there's a couple, Ruben and Appy, who have a group called Terra Cosmica, and it's very powerful tribal music. They have the most amazing voices, but also the most amazing array of core tribal native instruments. And there's something about that type of music, you know, drumming, ancient from sort of ancient tribes, indigenous tribes. There's something really beautiful about that music in getting us out of our thinking into our bodies and into the experience. And that would be my other answer. Terra Cosmica have done that for me more powerfully than anything.
Mm. Yeah, lovely. And just into rest of the year next year, have you got any personal workshops? What other areas that you, or what's on your list of things to continue this journey?
So I do a lot of sea swimming, and so I'm trying to get on a Wim Hof program, actually, to spend a week with him. For those that haven't heard of him, you know, he's Mr. Iceman, so ice baths, and he has a week in Poland where you're really exploring the power of the mind, and the amazingness of our body to heal itself. So I'm really interested in that. I'm scared of it as well, actually. Even though I do a lot of cold water exposure, there's kind of a fear that I really am interested in looking at and exploring. I will probably do some work with Rupert Spira, who is in the field of non-duality in a really powerful way. I know you know him well, James. So that's another beautiful way of exploring more about the mind, consciousness, and the self.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of things. I also am really interested at the moment in exploring relationships. So there's this deeper work but then there's how to bring that alive in relationship. And so I am doing some work with authentic relating at the moment, and will continue to look at work around tantra or relationship generally, to look at who I am in how I show up with others.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So I like that. Yeah, that's sort of the continuing in terms of on both levels, isn't there, in terms of that. And what Wim Hof, just back to that one, there's something around that, isn't there? It's leaning into your edges, and that, holding, that's a physical experience of being in presence, being fully open as we step into the ice, as we step in, and the mind saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
you can't," and the mind, the body wanting to contract, wanting to withdraw, to tighten. And yeah, that's a lovely edge, isn't it? Where we can just explore that in terms of being completely relaxed and open to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. And just to say a couple of other things. So I love going into freezing cold water, but without my thinking, because my thinking says it's going to be cold. It's got a construct in the mind of what cold is, and it's got a construct of what it is that's not nice. So I'm already going into the water going, oh my God, it's cold. It's going to be cold. And with all of that comes a significant story of what that means. And when we let all of that go, actually, there's this beautiful, incredible way to go into water and just experience the experience like we didn't have a mind, just go and like a thinking mind, just go in and experience the experience. It's amazing. A few years ago, I coached someone to swim the Channel, and I'm just about to start coaching someone to swim in South Africa to Robben Island. Swimming to Robben Island is one of the most notorious, challenging swims because of the cold and I think the currents, and also some of the marine life out there. And but it's all a psychological game. It's all around what the mind is doing to this swimmer. And so I love looking at that. How do we get out of this? How do we get out of the mind and just do what our body can do?
Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Love all of that, Martin. And you know, I was just reflecting on it, isn't it? Because we can see that in terms of how quickly the mind can restrict, to limit, to tighten. You know, that can be physically in the body, you know, that the capacity where we're not able to perform in that effortless, open, in flow. And so yeah, it's such a gift to explore that edge and soften. We can start to soften, so we can then show up in that open open and free way of being and interacting in life. Yeah.
The SAS have this thing that I ran these ultra marathons a few years ago, and these were sort of 150-mile races across deserts. And I ran one where I ended up stopping because the mind got hold of me, and I had what they call escape gremlins, where the mind is so convincing that you need to stop. It convinces you to escape, to get out and to stop. And so I did that once, and then the next time I ran one that was equally challenging, but knew what the mind might do and didn't let it, and just carried on running. And it reminds me of something the SAS says, that when you're totally spent physically, when you're absolutely exhausted and you don't think you can move one step further than where you are, you're actually only using 40%, or have used only 40% of your physical capability. There's 60% that you haven't even got to yet. And that for me inspires. I'm saying that on this for those that are physically inclined, but I'm also saying it for all leaders. It's like, what if the way that you were thinking about your company or your life were only accessing 40% of what was really possible?
Yeah, and it comes into that, isn't it? That unboundedness, the unlimited potential that we are.
Yeah. The other thing I love playing with, James, in this conversation, or we've just played with silence, and you referred to it earlier, is it amazes me how enriching silence is. It's like it gives the mind space to actually work at a better level. It enables the mind to reflect, see things, have thoughts that seem to not arise unless there's silence.
Yeah, I really feel that, know that. And there's a real power in pausing, isn't there? Bringing some pauses in. As we can often find in business, it just becomes so busy. There's so much we can be looking at, absorbed in, distracted by, lost in. And so creating that space just to pause, to create some space there, a beautiful way to give us some clarity, to allow us just to, for our being to start shining through, to express through us, before we can fall ourselves into those patterns, the constructs, the stories, the unconscious way of being.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to finish, Martin, what are the ways you like to experience stillness? When what are the practical and other ways that you just allow yourself to bring yourself back into stillness?
Lying in bed, dozing. So waking up, but staying in bed. It's like the brain waves are operating at a different level. I think it's a theta brain wave. Before we wake up and start rushing around, it's like there's this beautiful space, if you can allow it, to lie in bed and let the mind do whatever it does. I think I love that. I really love it. Breath work and yoga. Breath work. So some people might not have come across breath work, but conscious connected breath work as a form of breath work, or Wim Hof breathing with breath holds, are really powerful ways to calm the mind down, to have silence during and after those experiences. There's a beautiful space that's created to reflect and contemplate. And the other, I've explored plant medicine in recent years, psychedelics, and I also find that as a really powerful way of going to another realm to explore my experience and my thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for anybody listening, wherever they're at with some of this stuff, some people may be resonant with everything we're sharing, some people maybe not, but my invite to anyone listening is to explore. Don't stay living life in the box that you grew up in the way that you, with the same friends and the same work and the same this and the same that. Get out of your box, get out of your comfort zone, and explore whatever it is that appeals to you. Explore and challenge in terms of what you do, but also explore and challenge in terms of looking at the mind and your own experience.
Yeah. Beautiful wisdom, Martin, around with that, isn't it? And with those edges, with that resistance, is the growth. Is for ourselves, and it'll be different for all of us, isn't it? What we're called.
Yes.
There's a lovely, beautiful invitation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Martin. That's been beautiful. I'll put in the links, the link to Unbounded and also Consciousleaders.earth, and a few of the other things we shared. anything else you'd like to share and add just before we finish?
No, I think that's it. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you. Thanks.
Yeah, and me to you as well. Yeah, thank you.